Once again, we're talking about things that we generally pay people to ask us. And in this case, one of the things I want to discuss, Tushar, is marketing that does not work.
That does not work, yes.
Because
A lot of marketing does not work.
a lot of marketing does not work, not with us.
Yes, not
But with others.
Yes.
And there are these extremely frustrating and ineffective tactics when it comes to marketing that people continue to use, even though they've stopped working all the way back in, 2000s, 2010, 15, whenever. This is not going to be just a Crip Fest. The goal is to talk about how do we fix this? How do we fix these activities in a way that they actually show the promise?
And we'll tell people what doesn't work and how to make it work. Like, it's not like everything that we'll talk about does not work and it's a cross industry and it's a broad statement that we are saying that, hey, this does not work. There are ways to make it work, but you need to know those ways. So, yeah.
Yes. So, X specific tactics that do not work and how to fix them.
Correct.
This is not about having the flashiest campaign or the largest follower or the buy one, get one coupon that actually
does work.
Yeah, that works. Works for me. But this is about the specific tactics and how we can. So let's start with the first. When it comes to email marketing, it is as vague as saying that, hey, we do content, which is that my first question after that is what content? Because when it comes to email marketing, it is just categorized in so many different ways. You have your cold bulk outreach. You have a very similar equivalent of that in your subscriber base as well, where SaaS products or brands with larger following, they essentially close their eyes, have one email, keep sending that out as a newsletter, and pray for something to happen. Right? And it seems to work. For every $1 spent in email marketing, I think the latest stats show that you get a return of around $36. So something's working, or it's working for someone.
But what kind of email? Because there are a lot of types of email campaigns that people do, and one that really marketers love but don't see a return on is the mass email campaigns, right? You have an email list of, let's say, 1,000 people or 5,000 or 10,000. You spray that email all over everyone and hope to see some results out of it, right? And that's not worked for a lot of brands out there. A lot of, I'm sure, email marketers have been fired because they don't see those open rates, click rates, or nobody's clicking the CTAs that they have in the emails. And we have some big examples there, right? Where companies have done these blunders where they've sprayed all across and then apologized on it. So
it's not even about cold campaigns. Is that even for subscriber-based campaigns? One of the things that I think LinkedIn was doing sometime before 2015 was that they were automatically sending a person's followers an invite to connect, to get, or to essentially connect to all of their other audiences. So LinkedIn was doing some kind of mass cold campaigning with their subscribers and the subscribers' network.
Oh no!
And it got slapped with this huge lawsuit out there in 2015. Which is,
and a big brand like LinkedIn, like imagine a small B2B company sitting out there buying like subscribers or getting data from somewhere and hoping it will work, right?
There's no chance of that happening. Wait, that's the thing, right? So LinkedIn did it, failed miserably. Like the incredibly untargeted campaigns that went for that. I think one of the brands that made an even bigger blunder, maybe not slapped with a lawsuit, I'm not sure if that happened, was Adidas during the Boston Marathon.
Yeah, that
was a big blunder. My God. I can just imagine one of their marketers sitting 2 weeks before the Boston Marathon, writing out all of this copy, feeling at the top of the world.
They've done a great job with the copy.
Scheduling it and then...
And that got a lot of backlash after that. Like a lot of people on Twitter and other places were like what the hell? Like, be a little more sensitive, have a little have your copy checked at least before sending it.
For sure. But yeah. I actually believe it didn't get enough backlash. And I think that's because people now they expect brands to do cold emailing, to just send them up.
Nobody is looking at those. People ignored it, made fun of it, and then moved on.
Yeah, which is why this marketing is getting ineffective.
Correct. Yeah.
Let's look at the brands that have done this right.
Absolutely.
Really nailed this. Right. So, what's your top of mind?
So one of them is Uber that I've seen. Right, they have a very well structured emails, and They know what list they are sending that email to, if it's a subscriber list. And I think the sequence of emails is also great, because once somebody joins, like they give you a welcome email, and then it's like their emails are so well, like the sections are so well structured that every section will have a different color, right? Alternate color patterns they are using. It's very clean, low content, it's bigger text. You can read that and get to know, okay, this is an offer, or this is a informational email, this is talking about the features, this is a welcome one, this is a privacy settings one. So it's very well structured, and I feel whenever I open a Uber email, I exactly know what it is, and on the mobile it looks great as well.
It's surprising, like a brand like Uber, I wouldn't expect to, look forward to those kind of emails, but
Yeah.
clean, it's slick, and you're like, these guys told me
Absolutely.
what I needed to know,
Yeah.
and then they move on.
So any brand that comes to your mind who had done some great email campaigns?
I'll pick the tool that I use on I won't even say daily, an hourly basis. Grammar.
Yeah,
Grammar emails are on point, and there's a bit of engineering as marketing also included there, because what happens is that I know it's coming from a MarTech stack. I know it's automated and all, but it's incredibly personalized. It's personalized based on my activity. That's a move brands have to take. It's not something where just sending the same kind of content to everyone is going to.
And if you're sitting on user data, right, I'm not using that data to send them personalized stuff. Like, what's the user data for? Like somebody like a Uber, Grammarly, or Slack, or other tools, tech tools out there who know the usage of their tool, who know how many hours you spend on that, what kind of usage you have. If you're not personalizing your campaigns to that usage, and you're utilizing it, I'm sure if there's some privacy policy which is stopping them from doing that, that's a separate thing. But I think they should, and which is Grammarly is a great one.
Yeah.
Google Maps is a good example of that.
Google.
Every month they give you
The Google thing is like, Google knows your like घर पे कौन है, like
If they're not using personalized data, then I have to clean up.
if Google is like, Google should not personalize, because everybody is like they know my, like मेरे घर का नाम है, कुत्ते का नाम, they know everything. Then they're like, hey, tell Tommy to stop barking, something like that.
This marketing tactic completely destroyed these two companies, and it was all because of Facebook.
And that's clickbait marketing.
One of the most widely loved and hated, or rather effective and hated tactics, are using clickbait. It's a larger term. We've just come off a discussion around email marketing, and you know for a fact that if your subject line isn't absolutely enthralling and it's in cold email, no one's going to open it. But then there are these brands who took it too far, who completely hacked the system and then got hacked in return, right? Like,
and clickbait now, it has at a point where like I just like, whenever I search for something, I see a clickbait link there, I just smile. I know what's in there. Like, if you're telling me there are 5 tactics that you love and read the 4th one or something like that, I know that.
Yeah.
And now the audience has gotten smarter, where they also understand, hey, if I click on this, it's the waste of my next 5 minutes, where I scroll, I get nothing out of it.
It's just that clickbait has now become synonymous with low value content, and your audience is wisening up. They see a clickbait title, they know for a fact that this is going to be just useless. The two brands who led this transition in the users were, I think, BuzzFeed is the most common one, and second is Upward. And what a fall Upward we have seen.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it all started when somebody creating this first, and then realizing, oh, we're getting some, like, people are actually clicking on it. And that was interesting back then. It was revolutionizing that, okay, we've come up with with content which really people like to click on and then read our articles. But when then greed came in, and it started converting into, hey, this is how it should be done, and it'll get you the followers or the clicks to it. So now it's at that where they don't really care about the content inside, they just care about the copy which will get you the click. And this is more where you have those Google ads, or you're selling ads on your page. You just want people to land on it and you make your money's worth, right? Because you have the ads placed there. So that's what that's what got this ball rolling. But now it's at a point where people are not clicking because it's a clickbait.
Yeah, and the data backs it up. Like, Upworthy at one point was almost reached, I think, some 80-90 million monthly readers, which is ridiculous. Like, brands were complaining left and right that they couldn't get that kind of reach from paying for paying for ads to try and get that kind of audience. It just wasn't working. The only way they could do this was follow that approach by themselves.
And then BuzzFeed and Upworthy, when they started, they did it very like smartly. They were smart about it, but then as like now the news channels are doing it. So you can imagine like the news channels are the last to get on a trend, right? Now they are on this clickbait trend. So you can imagine where it's going.
Like the two things that I think really changed for these platforms, especially Upworthy. So let's look at Upworthy, right? Two things that changed. One was audiences realized this is strict content. I don't want to read this. Second thing is which is happening with every single social media. The social media platform wants to keep its audience towards it.
Right.
And changes in the Facebook algorithm and user behavior.
Google algorithms, yes.
Yeah, and it just Upworthy is cracked. And Google algorithm.
Yes.
Google is also cracking down on clickbait content.
Correct. It doesn't want, right? Google and other search engines are making money off people searching and landing to the right page. Like that's their
value from
that's their business model. And if you're hacking their business, they'll not like it. So that's what Google has been doing with their updates. And they want a content from the people and for the people, right? And it'll not appreciate if somebody lands on it. And that's your SEO parameters and everything falls to the ground where like people are landing on it, they're scrolling through it and going away. If they're not reading, like Google will identify that your crap content, only the subject line which got them there was great, but then there's nothing in there. So yeah, it's not a long-term, if you're looking for a long-term sustainable content engine that you're trying to build, this is get you nowhere. Like it might get you some instant traffic, but that's long-term, the entire domain will get affected.
Yeah, all these algorithm changes are essentially to regulate marketing in a way that the user finds what they're looking for.
So, for example, New York Times does it really well, right? And they did this article where the subject line says the millionaire who wanted to die broke is now officially broke, right? That's kind of a subject line which is not like coming from, you don't expect that coming from a news portal, right? They'll just say that, okay, this was the billionaire who did this and now he's broke, or all of that. But now how they structured it got them the right kind of traffic and what they were looking for, probably more than that.
Yeah, like they could have just as well said, Chuck Finney, billionaire, gave away money for philanthropic causes. But if they tell me that the billionaire wanted to die broke,
now I want to read it. Yeah,
I want to read it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's about having a clickbait title, but delivering that value, at the end.
Yes. I think then that's this broader marketing thing, right? Where if you're creating a newsletter, let's say, if you're creating a case study, if you're creating a marketing collateral, which like if it's not delivering that value, at the end of the day, it will not work, right? So be it whatever your subject line, if the email is crappy, right, then like how much like open rates you get, you'll not get the right results from it. As similar as with the content.
Agree. It's essentially, if you make a promise, keep it. The third marketing tactic is broad targeting, which is not a dating strategy.
Yeah.
The one size fits all approach that brands love to take, especially with ads, especially with like the TV ads and Super Bowl, of course, right? Sometimes it comes back to bite them in the ass, and sometimes really badly.
See, when we are helping our clients with the marketing strategy, right, the first thing that we always say is that, hey, you want to reach out to your audience, segment your data, right? Segment the data that you have, make ICPs and make sure that you're giving the right content to the right segment. And the only reason is that I don't want to, like, if I'm not interested in something, as a business, you would know, right? And if you're serving me something that I won't read, I'll stop looking at your emails, I'll stop looking at your content, because I know it's not resonating. I don't really care about that content that you're posting out. Every brand needs to understand their audience, segment it correctly, and give them well targeted content. And that, I think that's a basic of marketing.
That's the absolute basic. One example that comes of broad targeting gone really, really badly is the Pepsi Kendall Jenner.
Right.
There was a lot of bad things coming together to make it worse. It was a brand not understanding its audience,
right,
talking about a matter that was at that point, highly contentious. Black Lives Matter at that point had equal support, equal
Correct.
opposition, and then to come up with an ad that tries to appear topical
Right.
and appeal to everyone by saying that, hey, whoever you are,
Hmm.
whether an opposer or a supporter, a Pepsi will fix this for you. It was
Right. It was like not timed really well and not sensitive enough for the surroundings, right? What's happening
there are
back
no
then.
excuses.
Yeah.
I don't.
And that's why they pulled it down.
Essentially narrow targeting wins.
Hmm.
It's one that even when you're doing ads, when you're doing billboards,
Yeah.
having them as specific as possible just works better. It shows that you know who you're
Yep.
talking to. You look at some of these. I think Spotify did a chunk of these ads.
Correct.
There were some really interesting billboards
Hmm.
that weren't trying to propagate the love of music.
Hmm.
They were focused around genre. They
Hmm.
knew that this was specific. They knew that they were
Right.
narrowing their market, but it showed what they stood for.
And a brand like Spotify, who has this like the huge database of users across music genres, they going in for a particular genre and promoting that one, that tells like however big you are, you need to segment your audience in the right manner and give them what they're looking for.
Yeah, the I Love Ginger's playlist billboard ad, like that was on. And I think some local brands are doing this really well too. Like some of the Zomato billboards,
Hmm.
they change from city to city.
Correct. It's vernacular. It's speaking to the right audience. In fact, the tonality of those ads is really local, right? Like when you're reading it in Punjab versus any other city, you will see a very like different tonality to those ads, and that's what I really like about Zomato as well. Yeah,
It shows their personality, and it sticks.
absolutely.
Another
And people a lot of time talk about these broad channels, right? A lot of times when brands come to us asking for help around this, when we suggest go personalize, don't go broad, have your targeted audience there. Like when they're going for channels like TV or radio or print or any broad channel like digital, still it's like easier for them to get to a specific audience. But what we suggest them is if you know your audience first, then you can target it really well, right? Even if you're doing a TV ad, you know the audience will be on a specific channel at a specific time frame. They're more subscribed to that channel. You put your ads there. You have on an English channel, you have a different ad. On a Hindi one, you have a different ads. Similarly, on newspaper, if you're doing print ads, you have multiple newspapers talking to different audience. Know where your audience will be and target that. You don't need to be on every newspaper out there. You be on the ones. Be on Hindu if your audience reads Hindu. Be on other newspapers. Like if vernacular is the space that your audience will be on the vernacular newspaper. So I think first segment your list and then go for anything else.
narrow targeting is always more expensive when it comes to top of funnel. When it comes to getting those top of funnel views or leads or whatever that metric might be.
Yeah.
But the conversion rate just more than makes up for it. When you're speaking to people in a way that they want to be spoken to and you're giving them the right kind of value for it, the right kind of product for them.
Yeah.
It flows. Look at Dollar Shave Club. Dollar Shave Club is one of my favorite ads.
Why does Dollar Shave Club give you such a high quality shave for such a great price? Because we're not. Dollar Shave Club, epic razors, epically affordable. Also, we're in tons of stores now, real stores.
It did not try to go for either premium or affordability. I mean, okay, it was focused on affordability, but the way that they targeted their audience, it was very specific to people who were tired of.
And then they knew the audience that they're targeting, right? Youngsters who don't have a lot of money to spend on these kind of things, and they picked that audience right, and they hit that audience very
But
precise.
the tone that worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. We've talked about personalization. We've talked about narrow targeting, and it's like moving from a B2B or B2C, moving to B2B.
B2P, yes.
You'll find the link somewhere. Fourth is looking at the number of followers as a KPI. It is surprising how what was one of the most value-driven metrics earlier is now just a vanity metric.
The time people started buying followers, I think that was the time that it really, like, good brands started like devaluing this whole metric of knowing that, okay, these many followers, you're a great, like, if your follow growth is like 1x, 2x, 3x, that's great. No. What really counts is the engagement, right?
For sure.
Is your,
Like, we all know about those phone farms that we heard of in China with those photos where you have huge walls filled with phones and everyone.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
When you can buy followers, they mean a lot less. As you said, what you want to focus on is the engagement.
Is the engagement, yes.
Having 100,000 people who know of you is not as important as having 1,000 people who are willing to pay you.
Right. And then it also depends on like the kind of content that brought them in versus the kind of content that they're seeing. Right? A lot of time brands shift their tonality and positioning way too often. Right. And that leaves the 100K people who came in for the first thing. Now that's nowhere there. Right. So when you're shifting your focus as a brand to from A to B, you need to also care about those 100K, and they'll not like engage with your content because they don't now no longer relate. And I think that's a problem which a lot of brands face, where they have multiple products, right, on their catalog, right? They have multiple, like for tech companies that we work for, there might be a HR tech product that they have a tech SaaS product that they have, and multiple products, and the social media channel is the same, right? Now you you had a campaign running which brought one kind of audience in, but now you're posting about the other thing and they don't resonate to it. And that's where we always say that, okay, don't go for the number of followers, go for the engagement, and that's the right metric, because now if they really like your content, if they're relating to your content, they will engage with it. If they're not engaging with it, you're not like do 100 posts and you'll not get anywhere.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big pain point for tech services companies.
Yeah.
I've seen that we've had some tech service companies approach us and talk to us that, hey, I have 10,000 followers, not purchased. These are followers who have actually followed these companies.
Correct.
And their question is, why am I not getting engagement? Why am I unable to sell my product to someone?
Right.
There's a very simple answer to it. It's that because tech services is so manpower heavy, their entire follower list there is there looking for jobs.
Right.
And then when they're sold to, they're not engaging with it for that content.
Yeah.
So it's one of the challenges that a lot of companies face, where they're trying to use one of these linear channels like social, where you have one feed. Unlike, say, if you're focused on SEO content marketing, you can give the right content to the right.
Correct. Yeah.
For social, you have one feed. It needs to provide a united brand.
Correct.
Like, look at Coca-Cola. Their page has one of the most abysmal engagement rates.
And they don't change their campaigns. Open Happiness is like going on for 100 years now, I think. And like they're okay with it. And they're a legacy brand, right? Nobody will forget them. Like people still consume their product, be it marketing, be it no marketing. They just need to be top of your mind, right? Top of your mind recall, as long as they're okay with that. And that's why the social is so boring. Like you, once in a while you see an ad coming from them which will be really emotional, and that they hit that emotional angle in it, but that's like probably every few years they put one out, and that's it, right? Other than that, you see their 2012 ad social post versus today, it's all the same.
So as you said, right, Coca-Cola is a legacy brand.
Yeah.
They're looking to sell their product. I can't really imagine Coca-Cola as one person, and they don't seem to care much about it. They have other products that are selling anyway. Ben and Jerry's, on the other hand, when you contrast it with a legacy brand like is everything that is right with community-driven marketing.
And that has a personality.
Yeah, they have so much personality. Ben and Jerry's it's one of the largest ice cream brands out there, and it still feels like it's an individual who's talking to us.
And imagine an ice cream brand like like having a personality of its own and talking to you as a person. Like you don't take ice cream seriously, but you take Ben and Jerry's seriously, and that's what they have been able to do over these years.
Yeah, they really stand their ground with when it comes to their value system. Like that was a point where an ice cream brand said that, hey, this is something that we believe in.
Right.
We're gonna put a lawyer on retainer for anyone who gets arrested protesting the Occupy Wall Street movement. We're gonna bail you out. This is a brand that actually sued its parent company while trying to exit Israel because they believed that didn't align with their brand value. And that shows, it shows in how actively people follow it, in the kind of engagement they get, in the way that their customers interact with it.
And that's how human it is, right? The brand understands the users and their emotions and then acts accordingly, right? And that's what makes it what it is.
Yeah, like Ben and Jerry's has like maybe 1.5 million followers compared to Coca-Cola's, I don't know what,
Yeah,
but that,
3 million probably.
but it shows like, it shows even with those kind of huge numbers,
Yeah,
the engagements are
engagements are better. Yes, and that's what the B2B market needs to learn from, right? That you need to have engaging content, you need to understand your audience and deliver for them, and not what you want to say, but what they want to listen to.
I think the fifth thing that folks just can't seem to nail down, but they keep hearing that their neighbors and brothers and sisters and everyone else seems to have got it
Yeah.
right, is content marketing, or the way that it is run, blog marketing. Blogs of old do not work. Putting out content at this point, just in volumes, is not something that works. And this is something that brands figured out back in 2015-16. Like,
Correct. And one of those examples is HubSpot, where they were doing great. Like they were the pioneers in picking up a keyword and creating content for it and getting the right traffic for it. And around 2015 is where they saw a flat line and a dip in their content. And the reasons for that were like a couple of reasons that they identified and corrected. One of them was the featured snippets coming in, the voice search was picking up pace, and
social
algorithms, right? So people like social media channels do not want their audience to go away from their platform and go on to another website, and that is where HubSpot learned from that and fixed the way they were doing blogs and content, and they introduced this this model of pillar and cluster content, where they started doing that and following that. And while they started doing 2016-17 is where they again saw things going in the right direction.
Yeah, the one of the folks who led content for HubSpot actually covered this in their in one of the sessions at Grow Singapore. And this is exactly what they talked about. They talked about how they were getting a lot of that traffic. And at 2015, they saw that other brands were also suffering. There was an inflection point where they saw that first, this traffic is not buying from me. Second, other brands are also suffering. Change things. And they're not the only brands to have figured this out. Like, I think one of the things QuickBooks did was they deleted their half of their content on their knowledge base and things like that.
Yeah.
And just took that approach far more strategically, which led to an almost doubling of its traffic, which shows those results, right? It very clearly shows that doing it strategically is what works. This is honestly one of the reasons why I generally believe that Google is not afraid of people producing content through ChatGPT.
Right.
Google doesn't care if you're creating all of your content from ChatGPT. If it's adding value,
correct,
they're gonna keep it.
And I think that's a very very strategic move from Google, because if they go after all of these things, right? Who's creating content? Is your dog creating the content? If you are creating the content, they don't care who's creating. A robot is creating a content, as long as it's delivering value, and that's what the business it is in, right? It's not in the business of like checking who's creating the content. It's in the business of creating valuable content for its users, and that's what is happening.
Exactly, and that's why what they're focusing on is not the content itself, but how people are landing on it and how they're engaging with it.
Absolutely.
Which is why Google focuses on the algorithm. It says that, okay, your volume of content doesn't matter anymore. Are people actually spending time on your page? Is that something that's happening? That's what adds to that.
Absolutely.
That's what it's essentially. Content marketing is not blog marketing or just SEO. It is something that has to be done strategically.
Right.
And that has been our biggest takeaway over the last, I would say, the last 5 years, where we've really matured our content marketing arm, our inbound marketing arm. And it shows results. We've seen that it shows results both in the medium and the long term.
Correct.
So these are the key tactics that don't work. A lot of these we've seen in some of these brands were really mucking it up. Some of them we might have experienced ourselves, but you learn from those, and that's what I think we've really done. I think the end goal of any of these tactics is to drive those kind of results, is to drive that kind of value. And each of these is, I would say, each of these tactics is based on that. It is that every time someone tries to hack a certain process, it works in the short term, completely mucks it up in the long term.